So one of the big things when you're a database person, your life is writing queries, right? We've talked about this. And yeah, you'll insert records, and yeah, you'll update records, and yeah, you'll build tables, and you'll whatever. But 95% of your life is you're a report generator, right? You're writing reports. And depending on what your specific job is, but that most of the time, that's what it is. People ask you questions. Hey, what about this? Or hey, can you give me all the details about all the sales that took place in Texas in 1933 between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Mondays, right? I get questions like that. Those are real questions. Exaggerated dates, but those are real questions. So what we're going to focus on today is a handful of tools to help us write really good reports, right? And it's the baby steps, because eventually we're going to learn how to pull data from multiple tables, and we're going to spend 6 days on that, on joins, right? That's 3 weeks, 6 class periods on just joins, because joins are the most complicated part of doing select statements and writing reports. But for today, we're going to introduce the other clause that we keep talking about. The clauses, if you'll recall, there is the select clause, select from, where, group by, that's coming up today. Having, that's also coming up today. Order by, and we've talked about limit as well. So the only two we haven't talked about in this list are these two right here. These are not all of the clauses, right? There are more. Join is a clause that we'll learn about later. In conjunction with group by and having, we will look at some functions, right? We've talked about some functions already. We looked at the concat function. We looked at the day of week function. And we looked at the random function, okay? So I think we talked about this in this class, but just for the sake of the recording, I want to mention it. In math, we know what a function is, right? We've seen, the good old standby f of x, right? What exactly does that mean? Yeah, we put in some value x, and it'll give us output. So if the formula for f of x is 2x plus 1, and I want to know what is f of 5, what is f of 5? It's 11, right? We just replace the x with a 5, right? Easy enough. And if you've been in any of my programming classes talking about functions, you'll hear me refer to them as magic boxes, right? You pass in stuff and they give you stuff back. Who knows what's going on in there, right? You don't even have to know that this is what's in the function. You just pass in a 5 and it's going to return 11. That's all I care about. I pass in my x coordinate 5 and it tells me my y coordinate's 11. That's it, okay? So with these functions, it's the same idea. In the scenarios that we've seen so far, if I passed in something like this parameter, Beavis, with a space, and this parameter, Jones, what does that return? Beavis Jones, right? All together. I put it in and somehow it puts it together. Magic. Day of week takes in a parameter, right? It takes in a date, 2019, there we go, 10/9. If I pass that in as a parameter, it's going to return a number, the number 4, I believe. Sunday's 1, yeah, so today's Wednesday, yeah. So that'll return a 4. And then with the random function, when we run the random function, you don't even have to pass a parameter if you don't want to, and it will just sort randomly or it'll pick something random, right? But who knows what makes the random function work? Who cares? It's a magic box. We just use it and it does what it's supposed to do, right? So we're going to learn about some more functions today. But first, let's start with baby steps, all right? Let me ask you a couple of questions. First question, if I wanted to know which sales reps are assigned to customers without using any new stuff, just stuff we already know, how could I find that out? I want to know which sales reps are assigned to customers in the TAL database. So let's get to TAL here. What would we do? Select, okay, select what? Which of the sales reps have customers that they're assigned to? We have to select something first.
Select rep.
Select a rep num. I'm assuming you meant rep num, right?
Yeah.
Okay. From customer.
Where? rep num not null is not null?
Well, that's gonna be applied to the rep table, so in this case it would just be the customer table, right?
I would just put a
Oh,
comma
where
in
is-
rep num and put, customer num.
Okay, well, I don't even want to know which customer it is. I just want to know which reps are assigned to customers, that's all.
Oh,
We have 4 reps in the rep table, and maybe only 2 of them are assigned to reps, so the other 2 are slackers or something, right? Now, you mentioned where rep num is not null. Rep num is not null. Why do we need that? Or do we need that?
Because if it's null, it means they don't have any, or the customer isn't assigned a rep.
Okay,
I'd argue we don't need that, because of the idea if the customer doesn't have a rep, and so it's like the rep down from customers, I don't think it would return, would it? I don't think it would return a null.
let's find out. Let's leave it off for a minute, okay? I know the answer, by the way, just for the record, okay? So select rep num for customer. Look at the bottom one, there's a null there, right? So, yes, we want to, if we only wanted to see the rep numbers, then we would want to include the where rep num is not null. However, I would still argue in favor of leaving that out, because now I'm seeing a different problem. There's a customer that doesn't have a sales rep. That's no good. Okay, but let's ignore that guy for a minute. I purposely put that in there, just so we can address that very question, okay? Because if you look in your tables, that's not there. They're all assigned. What I'm looking at, so look at which rep nums have customers. Well, 15 does, 30 does, 45 does, oh, also 30 does, oh yeah, and 45 does, and 15 does. Do you see a problem here? What if this were a customer table with 500 records in it? This is a problem, okay? So ignoring the null, just pretend it's not even there for the moment. There's a very simple way to do this. All I want to know is which reps have some customers. That's it. I don't want to know how many they have. I don't want to know who the customer is. I just want to know who has customers. So there's essentially, my return has duplicate data in it, right? It's duplication. You can actually get rid of the duplication with this little keyword right here, distinct. And now we get this. Just one instance of 15, one instance of 30, one instance of 45. So now it's a very easy report to read saying, oh, those 3 people have customers. But wait a minute, don't we have 4 sales reps? Right? So select star from rep. Hey, it looks like 60 slacking. Janet doesn't have any customers. Turns out there's a null customer. Let's give it to Janet, right? So simple idea. But the distinct keyword is a simple way to help us on the way to being better report writers, better query writers, okay? Now, obviously, we eventually want to know, well, who has how many customers, right? And there are ways to do that, and that's where we're going to dive into some of these functions today, okay? So let's take a look at the new list of functions we're going to be talking about. These are clauses. And by the end of today, we'll know all about every clause, not all about, but a lot about each of those clauses. And these are some functions. I'm going to move to the concat and all those that we've already seen down below. And here are the new ones. We have sum, average, count, min, max. Now, that is not all of the functions. All right, let me put this at the top here. There's plenty more functions, but we're going to focus on those. Those are very commonly used ones when you want to aggregate data, where you want to compile data and calculate things on data, right? But let's look at some simple use cases here. Let's start with the count, number 4 here. If I want to know how many customers we have in the database, in the customer table, I can do this. Select star from customer. And after everything scrolls off the screen, I get at the bottom there 13 rows in the set, right? All right, so now I know there's 13. But what if there were 3 million? I have to wait half an hour later, oh, you have 1,457,263 customers or whatever, right? And you have to wait 20 minutes for it to scroll by. That's silly, okay? There's got to be a better way.
There's got to be a better way.
So how we do it, we use the count function, okay? So select count from customer. That's it, and it'll just tell me 13. Easy, all right? So if it's a million records, it'll just say 1 million, whatever. But let's talk about that parameter there, that asterisk. What does the asterisk mean most of the time in most programming languages and operating systems? What does that mean? It means it's everything. I love the hand gesture, everything. I have complete control over time, space, and everything. Yes. Nice. Yeah, it means everything. So what does it mean? What do we mean by everything in this context? So, for example, when I say select star from rep, what does everything mean in this case? Does not mean all records. No. All fields, right? The where clause filters out the records, right? Or the limit clause, right? You can say limit one or whatever. But this means select all fields. So this means from the rep table, show me rep num, first name, last name, city, street, state, postal code, commission, and rate. Show me all the fields, and then whatever records based on my where clause, right? At the moment, it'll show all of the records because I have not filtered it with a where clause. So it shows all the fields and all the records in that case. But specifically, the asterisk in this case on this select statement means all fields. All right, with that in mind, what do we suppose it means in this context? Because it's not a count of all the fields, right? Because there's 13 is not the number of fields. How many fields are there? It might be coincidentally, but it would be a coincidence. Yeah, there are only 9 fields in the customer table. So it's not saying count all the fields. It's a little trickier, right? It's going to sound like I'm saying it means all records. It's going to sound like that, but it does not mean that, okay? What this means is look at all of the fields. So all 9 fields, and any record that has something in one of the fields, show it, count it, right? So in other words, select star from customer. And you'll see here that every single record has something in one of the fields. But down here we have this one that only has an ID and the customer name. Everything else is null. Well, it has something in one of those all fields, all 9 fields. It has something in at least one of them, okay? So if I were to say select count city from customer, what do you suppose that'll return? 12. Because I'm saying count the number of records that have something in the city field. And this one record here at the very bottom does not, okay? So, but if I say count star, I'm saying do a count of how many records have something in any field. Not all fields, any field, okay? Dig it? All right. Questions about the count? All right, we can add to this. Now, let's go back to our original query where I said select rep num from customer. And it listed all this. Well, now at this point, I want to know, right, we have 15, 1, 2, 3 times. We have 30, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And there might have been a fourth 15 there. But you get the idea. There's some number of each of those. Well, I want to know what that number is. I want to rep num, and I want to count per rep num of how many customers there are per rep num, right? So we can do this. Select rep num and the count from customer. But that's not enough. We'll start there. Here's what's going to happen. It's going to grab the rep num, which the very first one on the first iteration through the table is 15, right? It's going to grab 15. What's the count? 13. It's 13. It doesn't, the fact that I added another field doesn't change anything, right? When I say count star, I'm saying look at every single record, and if there's something in one of those fields, give me a count. So the total, that count will still be 13. So here's what's wonky about this. When I do this statement right here, it's going to select 15 for the rep num there, comma, or not comma, but the next display over, 13, which is not accurate data. Not only that, but because the count is done, the select is done. And so this is all we get. This claims that rep number 15 has 13 customers. No, we wrote our query wrong, okay? So this is where the group by clause comes in, okay? So what the group by is, when you're dealing with a count or a sum or an average or a min or a max, some kind of aggregate data, and you want to count by rep or count by or sum by rep or whatever by something, when you want to do x by y or x per y, then you're going to be using the group by function. I want to, what do I want to group by here? I want to group by rep num. I want to distribute that 13 amongst all of the reps, because it is distributed amongst all of the reps. I just want to see what those values are. So group by rep num. So this will give us the data we're looking for, and we'll see that there's one person that doesn't have a rep at all, null. And then there are four, rep number 15 has 4 customers, rep number 30 has 4 customers, and rep number 45 has 4 customers. So at least the workload's evenly distributed. Maybe we want to change it and take one customer from each of those 3 and give them all to Janet, number 60, who has no customers, maybe, right? How do we feel about that statement there? The command, pretty straightforward. So here's a good rule of thumb. If, when you're writing a select statement, you're selecting a field and a function, you're going to be grouping. You need to group. Otherwise, you're going to have useless data. Okay? Now, you can do certain things without any field. You can just run the function by itself, right? I can say, count the number of records, and I don't have to have rep num or anything else like it. We've done that already. But if I have a field and a function, then I must group. What am I grouping by? Whatever field I'm putting in next to the function. Now, you can do multiple fields, right? I could do rep num and customer and something else. You don't necessarily have to group by all of the fields that you are using, but you will group by at least one of them. It all depends on what query you're trying to accomplish, right? We're not going to deal with multiple ones, though, for now. We're just going to do simple ones, all right? All right, how do we feel about the count? We good? All right, let's look at it in a different context. So let's do select star from orders. All right, so I want to know how many orders per customer. There's that word, orders per customer, right? So select the thing I want to know per what was per customer. So the thing I wanted to know per what, in this case customer, that's the field I'm looking at. So customer num, and I want to do a count from orders. And what's my group by going to look like? Customer num. And that'll tell me that 126 has 2 orders, 260 has 1, 334 has 1, and so forth. This guy has 2, and so on. Okay? Now I can arrange this data however I want. If I want to order the data, I can just throw an order by on here, order by the count. And now it'll order the data. It'll put all the ones at the top, all the 2s at the bottom. I can do order by descending, as you know, right? And it'll reverse order it. And just everything else we already know, like I can apply an alias to the count. So I can say as num of orders or something like that, right? Totally fine. Okay? When we learn how to write joins, what we'll be able to do is pull in the actual customer name here, right? Like, because the customer name's not even in this table, right? It's just this. But when we learn how to write a join, we'll be able to join in the order, or sorry, the customer table, and we'll be able to use that to figure out who is 126. Sure, I can go look in the customer table now and see, but when we learn about a join in, I think next week, maybe 2 weeks, then we'll be able to just put the name right there in our order, in our report. All right, how do we feel about that? Good? Okay. Let's take a look at the inventory table. Select, or the item table from item. I want to know how many products on hand we have, like everything, just a total of how many physical items we have in inventory. So I want to, yeah, we're going to use the sum function, right? I want to sum the on hand field. So select sum on hand from item. And we have 623 physical things on hand, okay? I want to know what's the average we have on hand of each individual thing. Just on average, how many things do I have in, basically per item, right? Okay? So we just do an average, AVG. So the average on hand is 41, okay? That's how many things we have on hand in any given situation. So let's quickly look at the order line table. Select star from order line, all right? I want to know what's the average number of things ordered, or the total number of things ordered, right? We can just sum up the num ordered. So select sum num ordered from order line. And we have 103 things ordered, okay? Your number will come up to 90 if you run the calculation. I've purposely changed this value to 25 for something that we're going to be looking at in just a minute. But your number will be 90 if you add it up, okay? So what if I wanted to know the average amount spent per customer?
Use like a method within a method, what did you?
A function?
Yeah, a function
Yeah.
within a function, sorry.
Yep, from the Java world there, if you use that word, method. Yeah, yeah, you're right idea, right? You will have to use more than one function to solve this. You can't just, in this particular case, due to the nature of the data here, you can't just simply average the quoted price. Why not?
Because you have to.
You ask per customer?
Well, no, I just want to know per, just the overall, like for the whole table, what's the average amount of money
You'd have
spent?
to add up the number ordered, or wouldn't you have to do the number ordered times the quoted price?
Yeah, so the amount spent on this particular line item is not $86.99. It's $86.99 times 5.
And then divide that by.
Right, so
all
it's
the
this
sum
times that,
ordered.
plus this times that, plus this times that, and so on down the line, right? So if I wanted to just see how much money was spent total, we would do this. Select sum of num ordered times quoted price. This is a math problem, not a SQL problem, right? This is just a math problem, okay? Select sum of num ordered times quoted price from order line. And it's the total money spent, at least according to this data here, $4,127.83. I want the average though. So I just need to divide that by 12, right? So-
Divided by the
It de-
sum of number ordered.
Yeah, it depends on average over what. If I want to know the average per line item, or do I want to know the average per customer, per order? What do I want to know? The average price per unit? What do I want to know? If I wanted to know the average price per order number, or per order line, then I would divide by 12. Because there are 12 order lines, right? And across 12 order lines, and these, again, all this that I'm talking about here is just math. This is not SQL stuff, okay? But in this particular case, there are 12 order lines. All 12 of those order lines could be from one order, right? They're not, we can see this. But this is, 2 of them are on that order, 2 of them are on that order, 3 of them are on this order. So there's only, maybe 7 or 8 orders there. So I can do an average over per order, which would be pretty tricky business. Per order line, there's 12 order lines, so 4,127 divided by 12, that's the average per order line, right? Or if I wanted to know average price per item, then I would have to divide by whatever, 103, right? That's the number of items sold. Okay, make sense? So again, these are just math problems. So to finish this query, if I wanted to know per item, divided by the sum of num ordered. And that should give me the quoted price, the average price per item that we sell. And it's $40. Okay? How do you feel about that? It's a math problem. A lot of math when you're writing these kind of queries. All right, any questions so far? All right, let's take a look at the min and the max, right? We got the count, we got the sum, we got the average. And one other thing about the sum. So select sum of num ordered from order line. We saw that equals 103. Why, or can I, that's what I meant to say, can I do that? If yes, why? If not, why not?
Press enter and let's see.
Say again?
Press enter and let's see.
I like the attitude to try it and see what happens. Yeah, Carson?
I could see that, like, potentially if the table was, or, yeah, if the table was completely numbers, then it would make sense, but I think there's things that, like, are characters, and I don't know how you would add characters.
Yeah, so you're barking up the right tree, right? The idea is, if I say sum star, I'm saying sum up all of the fields. Well, how do you sum, what's CD33 plus KL78, right? How do you sum that up, right? So you get an error. Now, as for your point of doing it where the table is nothing but numbers, we now have a table that's only holding numbers, so we can go back and test the idea. And the reason I'm doing I could just give you the answer, right? I could just tell you what the answer is going to be. But I want you guys to do this kind of stuff, right? Test stuff out and figure it out. So you can watch how I'm going to do it. So we're going to do select sum, and this table here, just so we have it, is called fake data, or test data. And these are the values in it. The ID is an integer, and it's just got 10 a bunch of times, and num 99. Okay, so here we go. Sum everything from test data. Our theory is what? What's our hypothesis? So some people say it's going to add up 10, so 140 plus somewhere around 1,400, right? Something like that. Anybody think it's going to work or crash or what? Bam, it crashes. Sad but true, it will not work. You have to, if you're going to sum, you have to specifically be summing or averaging one specific field. All that buildup for nothing. All right, so questions about that? Let's look at the min and the max. Let's go back to the orders table. Orders, order line, I think order line, select star from order line, that's the one I want. All right, I want to know what's the minimum number of products we've ever sold on an order line, like the lowest quantity purchased. Okay, without using anything we've learned today, how could you do that? If I wanted to know the lowest number ordered, just from what we've learned before today, what would I do?
Min. Select min.
From what before we've learned, we haven't learned about min, right? We're about to.
Sort by the ascending.
Sort by what?
Ascending.
Sort what though?
The number order.
No, sort the number ordered, right? Now, we don't have to sort it because it's a small enough list. We can see that it's FD11 and it was one thing, right? But if I had a big table of thousands of records, I could just order it by num ordered, right? Select star from order line and order it by num ordered. And I can even go as far as just limit 1, right? And there we go, that's 1. It's gonna be the lowest number. If I didn't put the limit on there, then it would just list everything, but the lowest number would be at the top. Easy enough. You can also do that with the max keyword, or I'm sorry, the min keyword, right? So it would look like this. Select min num ordered from order line. There you go. Okay. Now let's do the max. Max is the same idea, right? But there's a little difference here. Look, before I run this query, look at the resulting 12 records up there. What's the maximum going to be? 25. But there's two 25s, right? So 25 is still the maximum, right? If you're comparing 25 to 25, 25 still is the largest number. Okay, so that's fine. But what I want to know, what product is that? Which products have we sold that many of, right? Which products have we sold 25 of? That's a lot. Which ones are they? Well, I could do another query that says select star from order line where num ordered is 25, right? I could do that. That'll give me FD11, or it'll give me KL78 and FH12, 24. Or I could do this. I could say item num. Now just that alone, what's going to happen? So it gives you the first record and the total max. Well, if I wanted to see what's the maximum number ordered per product, which is kind of what I'm doing here, then we got a group by item num. What's that going to give me? This won't give me the data I want. I just want to know who are the 25s. What's this going to give me? Think about what the group by does. It's going to take whatever the maximum is, and it's going to split it up per item number. So it's going to look at each item number, and it's going to give me the maximum purchase of that item number. In other words, there was one FD11, and then this order had two FD11s. So I'm going to get this record, not this one, right? Because the maximum for the FD11s is 2, right? I think that's the only one where where there's any item number more than once. So doing that, we get 11 records instead of 12, right? And the only instance of an FD11 is right here. We got the maximum. So this is not the data I'm looking for either, right? So how do we get what I'm looking for?
Use where, select item number where maximum ordered.
Okay, so let's try something like that. So can we use a where clause?
Would you use having?
The having clause, we're going to look at that in a minute. That won't quite work, because with the having, you have to know the value that you're looking for, right? We'll talk about that in a minute, but that's a good observation, though. So group by item number, and then your suggestion, Alice, was where num ordered is equal to max num ordered. Is that the idea?
I would even delete it all the way back, like, select item num from order line, where
Okay.
max.
All right. So, yep. Select item num from order line.
Get rid of the group by.
Get rid of the group by. Whoops. What just happened there? something bizarre happened. Let me just delete it all. So we're gonna say from order line where where order num is equal to max num ordered, something like that. Which was conceptually the same thing I had, except you're leaving off a lot of extra variables, so it's cleaner. So what do we think? Who's in the camp that says it'll work? Alex, you're not in the camp that says it'll work. That's your idea. All right. No. Okay. Why do I have group there? Why does it say something about group? Nope, this is a group function. It's not the group by clause. This is a grouping type of a function, and that's saying that's an invalid use of it. Okay? It cannot be in the where clause. It's got to be in the select clause. The functions have to run in the select clause. So here's how we solve it. We know this. Select. But by the way, I didn't mean to like, hey, you're wrong. That's not how I didn't mean to come across that way. Just I like us to try these things out, right? But that was a good thought, right? It's a good idea to try that out. And again, I want you guys to try stuff out. Think about this stuff and test it out, right? Okay, so if we're gonna go, what are we doing? Max num ordered from order line, and we want, that's fine, from order line. That number is 25. What I want to know is which item numbers have that as their number ordered, right? So let's go to the notepad over here. And I want to know select item num from order line where order num, or is it num ordered? Num ordered. Ordered is 25. That's what I want, right? Okay, or where it's in this list, 25. Would you agree that that will give us what we're looking for? Anybody disagree with that? Okay, this will give us what we're looking for. If I run this, right, let me just paste this other thing that's in my copy buffer here. If I run this right here, that will give me KL78 and KFH24, right? The ones that have 25. That's got 25 and that has 25, right? Or better yet, 25 and 25. But why do I not want to hard code that number there? That number will change every day, right? I mean, who knows what the maximum ordered is today. So you can actually do what's called a subquery. And I can literally put this query right there. And so here's what will happen. It will run this and return 25. And then it'll run the outer query with 25 as the parameter in the in clause. So if I run that, that will give me exactly what we're looking for.
So is there a way to run it? That way it can give you the description of what KL78 is?
When you get into joins, yeah. So when you do a join, the question was, can I have it display what is KL78 rather than just the number? And yeah, when we get into joins, we'll learn how to do that. Yep. Okay, last thing, the having clause takes 3 seconds. Okay. So let's do let's use Solmaris, that's the condominiums, right? And show tables and service requests. Select star from service request. And what are the fields here? We want the condo ID and category number. So condo ID, and is it just cat or category? Category number. Okay, start there. All right, so what I want to know, the category is that, you know, it was a plumbing request or a heating request or an air conditioning request. I want to know how many of those we're getting of each, right? So I can just do a count here. Don't even need the condo ID. So I can do a count, a category. I just want to do a count of how many of each of those we're getting. And don't forget the group by category num. And so we have that category 1, air conditioning, there's 1 of them. Category 2, plumbing, there's 1 of those. Category 3, there's been 2 of those requests, and so on down the line. Well, maybe we have big numbers, like hundreds of requests or 50 requests. I want to know which one is getting requested a lot. So maybe I want to know which ones where the request count is greater than 50, right? Well, we don't have greater than 50 here. We have 1 and 2. So, but if we can use the having clause for this. Having a count greater than 1, in our case, because that's all the numbers we have to deal with there. And that will only show the 2s, right? It's sort of like a where clause for the group by. Think of it that way, okay? It's sort of a way to look at it. But now that'll let me filter down my count or my sum or my whatever. So I could have said having sum greater than whatever, having average greater than, having whatever greater than, okay? Or less than, or equal to, right? But the idea is I'm looking at this maintenance thing and I'm like, what's the thing we get requested the most? What do I get more than 50 requests on? So having count greater than 50, and I see, oh, that's item number 5, which is AC. Maybe we got to get a new air conditioning unit for all the condos or something like that, okay? So that's it. We got everything just in the nick of time. Any questions?